And we are ready to begin when you are, Chuck.
Thank you, Joshua, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Procurement Technical Assistance Center's outreach for the month of July. My name is Chuck Spence. I'm the director of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or Peatpac as we like to call it. It's much shorter to say it that way. We're pleased today to have Brad Andrews, who is with the Utah Inland Port Authority, with us today as our guest. But before we give him a chance to introduce himself, let me welcome our attendees in today. Most of you are probably Peatpac clients, but we have done some marketing and invited, sent our flyers to other organizations and asked them to invite their clients. So there may be some of you who are joining us today who are not Peatpac clients. And before we jump into the presentation today, I want to just extend a hearty welcome on behalf of Peatpac and let you know a little bit about the program. If you have a business that provides services or products, government buys pretty much everything. And what the Peatpac organization does, and by the way, we have 8 offices throughout the entire state of Utah. So wherever you are, wherever your business may be located, Peatpac is there to provide assistance at no cost to you. What Peatpac is, basically, very simply put, is government contracting. We are experts at government contracting, and that's all that we do, and that's all that we focus on. So if you want to look to pursue government contracts at whatever level, whether that be at the Department of Defense, federal agencies like the U.S. Forest Service, or the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, Reclamation, and others, and also state and local agencies as well, including universities and colleges and school districts. We have a full staff throughout the state of regional managers who are government contracting experts. So please feel free to reach out to them if you would like some assistance. And let me give you a little bit of a couple of sources where to go. You can visit our website, which is simply business.utah.gov/Peatpac, and I'll repeat that, business.utah.gov/Peatpac. Or you can email us directly at peatpac@utah.gov, and we'll be happy to take your phone calls or emails and reach out and give you the assistance that you would need. So let me, as we begin the presentation today, let me just kind of address the elephant in the room, if I may. With today's guest, the Utah Inland Port Authority, from its beginning, there has been some controversy, and there's been the protests and have you throughout the months. And you know, I'm not here to give any opinions on that. There is a proper forum to air grievances if there are any. But today, Brad Andrews with the Inland Port Authority is our invited guest. And we want to certainly give him all the respect and civility that he and the Port Authority deserves. We are here today to talk about the Inland Port Authority, who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, their mission, and what opportunities there may be for you as our Peatpac clients. So with that in mind, we'd like to now turn the time over to Mr. Brad Andrews, who just joined the Inland Port Authority about 6 weeks ago. Brad is an entrepreneur and has had positions with Fortune 500 companies, and we're going to turn the time over to him to let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit about him, and then we'll get into the presentation. Brad, take it away.
Great, thanks, Chuck. I'm very appreciative of the invitation from Peatpac to join you this morning. I will say that I've had personal experience with the Peatpac organization and several of the folks there, and my experience was exceptional. I appreciated the information and the resource that they were. So with that being said, I'm very appreciative for the organization and what you're accomplishing there. Let me just before I get right into the Inland Port Authority, I'll provide you a little bit of background. Chuck said that, as he mentioned, I'm not a career public official or servant. I'm from the private sector. I've owned my own companies. I've helped others start their companies. I've also worked for some of the largest companies here in the United States, large multinational companies. So I definitely come from a business background. I have an appreciation for any individual that's willing to commit themselves to a business and go at risk, as it were, to make some things happen. So that being said, there were two significant reasons why I decided to take this position. I wasn't necessarily looking for a job, but I've been following the inland port since its inception back in 2018, and was fascinated with the concept. The inland port, in and of itself, has other inland ports around the country, and there are a few. It offers some real potential access that you wouldn't necessarily find anywhere else. And so I was interested that Utah, being the crossroads of the West, as it's been called, would take on this awesome task, because it really is it can provide exceptional service to the Intermountain region. But because I've suffered the consequences of not being able to access my product in a timely manner, excuse me, from the West Coast, that was one of the first reasons that I decided to take a hard look at getting involved. The second one was I had the opportunity to be a part of a solution, and that in and of itself was extremely exciting. And really, that's why I'm here today. I can tell you this really is an awesome place to be. That being said, we can move to the next slide. What we are, as far as the Inland Port Authority is concerned, we are a state agency. We are a for-profit state agency, as we talk about here, in that we do generate revenue that is returned back to the state, which is beneficial for a lot of reasons. We have a statewide mandate, which means that we're not just focused in one particular region or area of the state. Yes, we do have a designation in the western part of Salt Lake Valley that we generate. There's a tax benefit. It's about just over 15,000 acres in the western part of Salt Lake Valley. So, and I know a lot of you have heard about that. It's probably where we've received a lot of the notoriety when the organization was first announced. But it's much more than that. It's we reach from one end to the other of the state. We also are using a regional approach to benefit every Utah family, both urban and rural. And what I mean by regional, we draw the products and the services that we provide reach well beyond even the boundaries of the state of Utah. We draw products from southern Idaho and from western Colorado, from Nevada, even northern Arizona. So it has a direct impact, certainly, again, in the Intermountain region. The vision is that Utah will be a leader in revolutionizing global logistics for the next generation. And that seems like an awfully large task to take on. But I can tell you a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're because we are new, And because we have the opportunity to start fresh, we have the ability to take a look at latest technologies, and we have the ability to look at and build this organization exactly how we want to, without being affected greatly by former issues or problems. If we move on to the mission, the mission really is to promote sustainability. Next slide, sorry. Promote sustainability, equitable, and smart logistics efforts. And those are, again, big words and things, and what do they mean? Sustainable, and let me just address that for a moment. It's been the mission for the Port Authority from its inception to take a hard look at the impact that the Port Authority would have throughout the state. And we looked at all aspects of what that impact would be, not just from an economic perspective, although that's certainly a driving force, but we also are extremely sensitive to what's been happening from an environmental perspective. I mean, if you look at just at the Port Authority property that's in the western part of Salt Lake Valley, there is natural byways, flight paths for birds and so forth. And it runs right through the port. So we have to be aware of what's going on out there. We are also extremely aware of the impact of air pollution, water pollution, and so forth. I'll share a little personal background. My dad, I was mentioning earlier, my dad was a professor, and his focus was research as it relates to the environment and the impact on society. So I've been raised with that notion in my background from the beginning, and so we are very sensitive about that. Let's move on to the next slide. So one of the most popular things that Jack Hedge, who is the executive director of the Inland Port, he talks about, he says the Port Authority is not a place, it's a system. And we certainly embrace that concept because it is statewide. It involves a lot of different moving parts. Yes, we have a taxable jurisdiction again in Salt Lake Valley, but it moves way beyond that. And so we want to make sure that people understand we have a mandate, and we have a governor right now who's very sensitive about making sure that we incorporate the rural parts of the state. And so we have some pretty cool things that are happening right now as we do evaluations in various parts of the state of Utah to make sure that we include rural Utah as well. I do want to say, I was going to say we insert the public good into existing, sometimes out of use infrastructure. And if you take a look around the state, there are a number of different locations around the state that have been used historically for a number of different purposes. And I mean, if you take a look at the steel industry or the coal industry, or even silver mining and things like that, as we have moved into those and now out of some of those activities, or the activities have become less, that leaves opportunity because we're not utilizing some of those facilities to their fullest use. And that certainly leaves an opportunity for the Inland Port Authority to utilize some of those resources. And we're certainly considering those and taking a look at those. Let's take a look at the next slide. This is kind of it gives you kind of an idea of the total impact. You know, we talked about Crossroads of the West and so forth, but if you really take a hard look at the map and where things are flowing as it relates to goods, if you take a look at the western seaports, that would include all the way from Seattle to Portland to Oakland, and then down in Long Beach and Los Angeles. Those are the major connections, and we've already made we have agreements now in place that have been announced with both the Port of Long Beach as well as the Port of Oakland. And there are activities that are occurring right now. And let me just share a little bit about what that means, because I think that I don't want to lose sight of really the real activities that we're engaged in. So right now, what happens is product moving from it could be anywhere in the world. I mean, products from Europe are coming into the western seaports, as well as everything coming out of the Far East. And as we consider the movement of those products, fortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, we have a lot of product coming from those various locations, and we import a tremendous amount of goods. And we have companies that are based right here in Utah that are reliant upon those trade routes to make sure that their products arrive quickly and safely. Unfortunately, what's happening is in products from the state of Utah get caught up for whatever reason, and they end up sitting on the water or at the port, waiting for transfer and from some means to get them to Utah and points beyond. So with that, what we've attempted to do is we have tried to streamline that process by getting into these agreements. And because of the agreements, it helps facilitate the movement directly from the ship onto other sources, whether it be by rail or by truck. And we get those products through those ports quicker, faster, and it's all about fluidity, making that a more streamlined process. So hopefully that helps you understand kind of really what we're tasked with at this point. As you look at this map, also I'll point out that it doesn't stop just in Utah, but it goes well beyond, and we have direct routes from Utah all the way to Chicago and St. Louis, Kansas City, and other locations east. So we want to be able to help facilitate that. And we have ways to do that. We're looking at building some infrastructure that will also help facilitate that as well. I will mention also, in fact, maybe we can take a look at the next slide, that we're utilizing, next slide. There we go. Okay, so we're utilizing 4 different regions. We've kind of divided the state into 4 specific regions, just so that we can kind of do our analysis based on opportunity and how we keep product moving. And if you look at those regions, every one of them are dominated by rail traffic as well as by road and trucking. So we take those things into consideration as we consider the quickest, fastest way that we can move those products. We also, take a look at the resources in those areas and how we utilize those resources, or can we utilize old resources, update them, and make them current to help facilitate movement of goods. We've been working with the Utah Association of Counties to help provide information and get the necessary information to make those assessments. Also, you may be aware that in the last state legislature, the Utah Inland Port Authority was given a task to build an infrastructure bank, and it was discussed that it would be funded initially with a $75 million basis. That infrastructure bank has been tasked then with taking a look at those resources and other resources that make sense to move this process along, to help streamline and keep things moving. Let's move on to the next slide. So just to make you aware, we've already, as you take a look at these organizations, we're already involved in 15 different agreements with various organizations. Each one of them have various activities and responsibilities that they're involved in. But and as you can see, it's a fairly diverse group. But one thing I do want to point out, there's one of those is Aspire, and Aspire is a very exciting organization that's been developing at Utah State University, and it has to do with the electric charging stations that they're developing up there. The port, it's the port's intention to be basically have a zero impact on the environment. And we're doing everything we possibly can, whether that's through solar generation of electricity. You'll see Rocky Mountain Power up there. We also were engaged in a number of discussions and talks about hydrogen power. And you see Dominion Energy and others that we're having discussions with. We also, it's the intent really to change out the equipment. And I'll back up a little bit, because that if you were to drive out to the Port Authority, and maybe many of you have already, the one that's based here in Salt Lake County, as you drive around out there, you go, well, wow, there's a lot of things already happening out here. And yes, I'll tell you that there are over 25 million square feet under roof out there currently, with additional expansion planned. Now, that being said, how do we have the least carbon footprint that we possibly can? Well, we don't own those facilities. All of those facilities out there are privately owned at this point. However, they would continue on doing what they're doing without the Utah Inland Port Authority. What the Utah Inland Port Authority has been tasked with is to provide some direction, some resources, assets, and so forth that will allow those organizations that are already based out there, and additional organizations that will come into that area, with the necessary capabilities to again transition from engine power, that is gasoline, diesel, to electric power. And we've been recognized by a number of different organizations outside of the state, in fact, internationally now, for what we are attempting to do. And they're taking a hard look at the types of things that we could use to help facilitate that zero carbon footprint, as it were. So with that being said, I will tell you, I'll share a couple of facts with you. 36% of the GDP, that is Utah's GDP, is from logistics dependent organizations and industries. So that has a tremendous impact on the state if you stop and think about that. 647,000 jobs are also engaged in that logistics based industry. So a tremendous amount of people that live in Utah are already impacted. I will also say that 80% of Utah's international containers come through California, and that's something to remember. That's important because it's the first area that we went to looking for agreements as it relates to the seaports, and we're getting absolutely great reception from those folks. They're under the gun there. They're trying to diffuse a lot of the pressure that's coming their way, and we're building assets and offering them a way to diffuse some of that. And by doing so, it helps generate revenue and jobs here along the Wasatch Front, as well as other parts of the state. So let's, maybe we can turn to the last slide. And I'll just say thank you. I appreciate being here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the Utah Inland Port Authority. I'm the new guy, one of the new guys as it relates to the Port Authority. However, as I said, I've been engaged and following it for some time, and it truly has been exciting for me to see what's happening and the way that it's being done. It's great to be a part of this team. And with that, I'll open it up for maybe some questions.
You're free to put a question in the chat that Joshua and I will monitor, or speak to Brad directly at this time. Brad, while they're thinking of some maybe typing in their question, let me ask you one.
Sure.
How did the Inland Port Authority, where did the concept and the idea begin? And you mentioned Utah as kind of being a crossroads of the West. We've had that reputation for many decades. But where did this idea come from? Was it the legislature? How did this come about?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what the originations were here in the state of Utah. I've heard a couple of different stories. I do know that Salt Lake City was very interested in being able to help facilitate some things, and I know that there were discussions engaged there. The discussions I know were at least as I understand it, were taken to the state because recognizing that the resources that were necessary in order to build out the inland port would probably come from the state, not just from a particular local municipality. And I think that's kind of how things got started. Again, don't quote me because I'm going to hide behind the newness. But I believe that's kind of how things got started here. It's not a totally unique concept. There are inland ports, particularly on the East Coast, and I'm aware of a couple of them that are extremely efficient, have done an exceptional job. One of them is the Georgia Ports Authority. Not only do they have the seaports, but they've also built inland ports, because the pressure became so heavy on from the sea perspective, and so they moved a lot of those goods inland. And let me just share this with you, Chuck, too. One of the things that we're doing is we're building a transload facility, and some of the viewers may be aware or may have heard about the transload facility, but that is a critical piece of what we have happening at the port. What it allows us to do is it allows the containers to be transferred directly from ship onto the train or via truck and moved inland to Utah, where we can then transfer those goods into either other containers or onto other trucks, or unload them right here to be utilized and consumed in the Intermountain area. And again, it means that we'll be hiring folks here in Utah to help facilitate that. It means that we'll be able to move those goods quicker again and faster. And as things are necessary to be moved on through to Chicago or other points east, it'll help facilitate that as well. So it truly is an opportunity for us to move things faster.
Thank you, Brad. We have a couple of questions. One from James Harwell. He asks, you mentioned that all of the warehouse properties are privately owned presently. Do you see in the future that private ownership may yield to that of the authority instead?
It's not the authority's perspective to own a tremendous amount of assets. We're not competing against the private sector. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put assets into place that will help facilitate the other businesses to flourish. And that really is why we're here. It's not really to compete.
Okay. Second question from Terry Harris. Is there a list of businesses that are involved with the Port Authority that are already doing business in the state? Does Peatpac have a plan on how we could do business with these?
Well, I can probably take on part of that, and Chuck, maybe I'll let you respond to some of that as well. There are certainly, as we take a look at building out some of these facilities or fortifying some of the facilities that are in various parts of the state, and I'll mention a couple of them. There's no mystery. If you take a look at the coal industry, for example, coal has traditionally come from Emery County and other locations out in that area. And I can tell you that the Union Pacific has facilitated rail movement of coal for years and years. And the coal industry has unfortunately not flourished in the last number of years. And consequently, the facilities that are located out in Emery County are running about 20% of what their capacity is. So it makes sense for us to utilize local companies as much as we possibly can to help us as we're continuing to build out these facilities or fortifying the facilities that are existing. There may be circumstances where it's just not feasible, or the talent or the capability isn't as readily available as maybe we would hope. But we're still moving. We're going to move ahead because we've been tasked and given a mandate from the state legislature to do so.
Right, thank you. And the second part of that question about the Peatpac plans, the answer is no and yes. At this time, no, but that's one of the reasons we invited Brad and the Inland Port Authority to this outreach, because you are very new and still in process and still being, the infrastructure is being put in place. I do think that there is great opportunity and potential for Peatpac and the Inland Port Authority to work to collaborate in a partnership. Sure. So that in the future, Brad, please know that as you may put out solicitations, being a state government agency for whatever you might need, as those clients come to you and they say, geez, how do we find those opportunities? How do we respond? You can say, go see your local Peatpac, go see the Peatpac program here in Utah.
Absolutely.
With our managers.
Yep, absolutely.
Brad, I'd like to congratulate you on your new role.
Thanks, Alex.
Hey, I had a quick question. There are some key brokers and stakeholders in the transportation industry here in Utah. You may have alluded to Union Pacific. We also have the Salt Lake International Airport, who do great bulk of international import-export. I didn't see them on your the chat with your partners on there. Is there a reason why, or you're yet to broker some agreements with Union Pacific and Salt Lake International Airport?
Yeah, good question. So Union Pacific, there's actually another railroad that comes into our state, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They are very much a part of the rail structure here in the state. That being said, Union Pacific moves by far the most cargo when it comes to the state borders. And Union Pacific, the rail companies at this particular point in time, we don't have an agreement per se with them, but we're certainly in discussion with them, and they're obviously aware of what we're doing. If you take a look at what's happening out in the designated area in the Salt Lake Valley, Union Pacific has one of their largest rail yards in the West located out in that area. And I can tell you that it's going through an expansion process right now. They're expanding the number of spaces and holding locations in that rail yard to be able to accommodate additional growth. They keep talking about, the state of Utah is going to double again in size. And I know that in some ways that's terrifying, in some ways that's exciting. What we have to do, and one of the reasons that the inland port was put in place by the state legislature, was to make sure that whatever growth did happen, that there was some level of guidance in the process, and that we coordinate what happens so that it just doesn't happen on its own. That obviously creates some level of risk if it was just to grow on its own. And it's been great, because quite frankly, there are a number of companies that are already out in the western part of Salt Lake Valley, as well as in some of the other parts of the state, the agricultural community and so forth, we're starting the discussions of binding ourselves together, which gives us a little more strength, provides the opportunity to also negotiate and to do some things that are critical, I think, in the overall growth plan for the inland port, as well as the state of Utah. So I didn't address the airport. The airport kind of operates on its own. It has its own designations, and we certainly coordinate, though, with what the Salt Lake City or the Salt Lake Airport is doing. It is an important part of the import exportation of products here in the state. However, in terms of volume, the highest, by far the largest volume of goods is transferred by rail and truck.
We have some more questions. Another one. Beyond our connection with Peatpac, how is the best way to tap in to formulate business opportunities with the Port Authority?
That's a good question. Trying to think of the best way. Run that past me one more time, Chuck, and maybe I'll break it up a little bit.
You bet. The question is, beyond our connection with Peatpac, how's the best way to tap in to formulate business opportunities with the Port Authority?
So there are, we're having discussion with a few companies, particularly companies that are already located in the inland port, and you'll see those people who may be already located out there, who haven't had a lot of interaction yet with us as the Inland Port Authority. You'll see increased presence. It's certainly my goal, and one of the things I've been tasked with is to make more of a presence out there. Those kinds of conversations will, I think, will spawn additional opportunities as it relates to what we do as the port, and what we do in terms of building out infrastructure. Quite honestly, Peatpac is an excellent resource because of their connections to government contracts and the ability. We're going to be published with all the other government contracts, state contracts, as it happens, as these things start to happen. If you have direct questions, though, as to things that you might do, quite frankly, I'm happy to answer your questions. If you reach out to me at the Inland Port, if I don't answer them directly, I do have a couple of other folks that work with me, that I'm happy to direct your questions to them and get you an answer. We are a government agency, and it's our intent to make ourselves available to answer questions and be as direct as we can. This is kind of, it's been an interesting transition for me, coming from the private sector and now working in, as working for the state. I'm a little more public, as it were, but it's, quite frankly, I enjoy it. I love the interaction, and it's important that you know what's going on. And so either feel free to reach out to me, or I will encourage you to keep an eye on what's happening through Peatpac. They can keep you aware of when the contracts are let. It's going to take some time to develop those contracts. They're not immediately forthcoming. I can tell you, for example, that one of the largest pieces that's happening is that transloading facility. The transloading facility, the conceptual drawings have been completed. We have to run it past. We have a board that has reviewed it, and then we take it to the next step, which is going and getting formal drawings, and then it'll be let out for bid and so forth. So it's going to take a little bit of time for those things to process. I think if you keep an eye out, over the course of the next 4 to 6 months, you'll see as things progress.
Thank you, Brad. Another question. Connery Johnson says, hey everyone, we're a landscaping and snow removal company that is striving to become a leader in water conservation, xeriscaping, local scaping installations. We're interested in partnering with the Inland Port Authority if there's a need for landscaping and irrigation installations and general maintenance. Lastly, if I can scroll down. Lastly, do you already have a list of preferred vendors?
I can tell you there isn't a list of preferred vendors yet. We have a couple of folks that we utilize for very specific reasons within the port. But again, as things kind of progress and as we start to build out, let me just tell you, I'll back up a little bit. The 15,000 acres that are in the western side of Salt Lake Valley, again, are privately owned. These lands, we had to purchase access to the property that we're going to be building our facility on. So every individual out there is kind of doing their own thing. We're encouraging that considerations are being made, particularly as it relates to the environment. And we've set up monitoring already to monitor things like air quality as well as water quality. That if you drive around out there, you'll notice that there are some large ditches and things, water collection areas. We actually have monitors in those areas already. Unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of water, but hopefully that'll change. But any kind of runoff that would happen from a road or anything like that, we're immediately notified if there's something that is fouling or has the potential to foul a waterway. It's critical. We truly are taking that extremely serious. It's part of the fabric of the port. So. And again, we want to make all of those people who are located in that designated area aware of what we're trying to do and trying to accomplish.
Next question. Obviously, there will be a lot of metal fabrication with the metal fabrication part. Will the metal fabrication part be ran through Utah state portals? How can niche companies partner with the Port Authority for bidding invites?
That again, great questions. I don't have the answers to how that all that bidding and the letting of bids is happening. That's outside of my purview per se. However, I know that it is the intent of the Inland Port. And it's the intent of any agency of the state of Utah to utilize resources that we have locally before we start looking outside. So as long as it can be done, prudently, I would think that that certainly we would be very interested in making sure that we have a list or your name or access to the companies so that we can make the vendors who end up getting the bids aware so that they can utilize your resources.
Brad, Tom Gerke asks, are there any open procurement requirements at this time?
There aren't any that I'm aware of, but again, there are a number of projects that are on the table, and it's a matter of a short amount of time, and I think you'll start seeing those things forthcoming.
Okay. Next question is, who is your contact person there that we might reach out to you?
Well, so I don't want to inundate anybody yet because we're still a relatively small team. There's 9 of us total, and we each have been tasked with a number of projects to oversee. What I'll do is there is a general information location. So if you either you can call in, we have a number, a general number, in fact, and I'll share that number with you if I can find it. Just a moment. Let's see. Okay. The general number here is 801-538-8950. And that should get you. We finally added a receptionist this week. So we're excited to have those people on board, but if you'll share with her your name, your company, and what you do, we'll certainly keep in contact, let you know as things arise. It's a very exciting time, but it's also there's a lot of things happening, so we're being pulled in a number of different directions, and so we'll get back to you as quick as we can. It is, again, the intent to utilize Utah companies. Why not? You're here. We'd love to utilize our local resources as much as we can.
And Brad, in regards to those new receptionists that you mentioned, our loss is your gain. They are too excellent. So you've got some good ones there.
Thank you.
Again, Tom Gerke kind of asks a part 2 question to the one that he asked previously.
Okay.
And it's this. And is there a 5-year projection of requirements?
As it relates to vendors?
Yeah, let me ask it. Let me ask in its entirety. So,
okay.
The question. The complete question is this: are there any open procurement requirements at this time, and is there a 5-year projection of requirements?
You know what, Tom? I can't give you specifics on that. Unfortunately, that's again, it's kind of outside of my purview per se. I'd be happy to try to get an answer for you and get back to you. But at least at this point, I can't give you an answer.
Okay.
It'd be great if you could provide that to us, and we'll send it out to our clients, because I mean, that's what they're looking for, is what are your requirements and how can they fill them for you?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Again, let me repeat in terms of contacting the Inland Port Authority. The general number is 801-538-8950, and that's in the chat box there. Another question from Alex is, how much is technology part of the Port Authority program, and do you require any additional technology input?
Oh, wow. From technology is an absolute critical piece of the fabric of what's happening here at the port. I mean, everything that we're doing is we're evaluating based on in terms of its propensity for obsolescence, for its, I mean, we're taking a look at everything that we can. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the opportunity to create something really amazing and like nothing that's been done before. And we've consequently, we've been talking to folks all up and down the Wasatch Front, that we have a few tech companies around, and they have a real interest in terms of what's going on. So we're talking to those folks, but we're also talking to other folks. It's great to hear and have input from some of the companies that are located around the world as far as that goes, because if we can understand what's available, a lot of times those things can be replicated, you know, with local resources. But the critical thing is that we want to make sure that we're providing the best that's available. And technology is, again, it's been ingrained in consideration, everything from the parking lots to, I didn't get into truck parking and things like that, but truck parking is a real issue and is becoming more and more an issue around the state of Utah, because you get these great big trucks who come in and they're looking to drop a load or, you know, drop off or pick up loads as far as that goes. And they are required to wait. And so we're looking at all of those kinds of things. We're looking at, as far as the transload facility, again, we don't want trucks that are sitting in a parking lot idling or sit on the street, certainly not on the street, blocking traffic or idling or doing things like that. So we want to make sure that we have things in place, technology in place that will track folks as they come in to either pick up or drop off, and all of that becomes more fluid. They don't have to idle. They can, in fact, I'll mention the parking facility that we are looking at right now. That I think that actually the final drawings are being drawn up on that as well. The intent is to have a facility that's secure, that will provide a place for the drivers to get cleaned up if necessary, to have a place where they can rest a little bit, but they can also be notified when it's their turn to either go pick up or to drop off, as well as they can plug in so that they don't have to idle. They can actually plug their truck into the facility. So anyway, there's a whole lot of different things that are happening that will help facilitate, again, the movement of goods through the state of Utah. We're intending, again, hopefully to participate in the movement. A lot of those goods right now, they move from one side of the state to the other before we even know that they're even here. And if we can help offload some of those and move them around a little bit differently to make it more seamless and faster, that's the intent. That's really what our target is.
Brad,
Next question. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up on what you just said, Brad, is
Sure.
this facility for the truck drivers to stop, maybe hook their truck up while they wait, take a shower, whatever. Is the Inland Port Authority have the budget, and is the Inland Port Authority going to be have the requirement to build that facility? Well, I mean, so like, for example, I got a guy that does, I don't know, concrete work, asphalt work, whatever.
Sure.
Where is he going to look for that requirement to come from? From you?
Yeah, so again, there are a number of sites. In fact, Chuck, you might even be able to address this better than I can. But there are a couple of different sites that somebody, a contractor or subcontractor might turn to in order to find out when a contract has been let. That's again, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the construction industry, so I'm not prepared to really give you a good answer, but maybe Chuck, you can address that. It is the intent though to make those contracts public, and everything will be handled, just like any other government contract would be.
So you have a contracting office then?
We don't, the state does, and we're utilizing the state of Utah's contracting.
So the Utah Purchasing Division of Purchasing then?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And then one of my follow-up questions was, do you have a 5-year procurement plan?
We have, do we have a procurement plan? I don't know that it's that specific. We have a 5-year plan in terms of, quite honestly, it's a bit fluid right now, because as we're doing assessments down in various parts of Utah, it's changing, because we've actually found some resources, I'll tell you, in the central part of the state that we didn't realize we had access to. And so that's going to be a little bit fluid here for the next few months.
Brad, I think you answered Paula's question, but the question was, where will your requirements be posted? And as you said, it'll probably be posted with the state purchasing office, and I think they call it SciQuest or UP3, correct?
Again, you'd probably know better than I would on that one.
So the Inland Port Authority, being a state agency, if they have need to procure something or put out a bid or contract, it will most likely be with the Division of State Purchasing, or actually now I think it's called the Department of Government Operations. But the system they use is SciQuest or UP3, the Utah Public Procurement Place, I believe. And Tom, did Brad answer your question about differentiating between the Port Authority and what private companies do?
No, I don't think.
Okay, Brad, the question is this.
Okay.
Can you differentiate between what the Inland Port Authority does and what the private companies do? For example, are you mandating truck parking areas, or let me scroll down, or are the private companies responsible for things like that?
Okay, great question. So we can't mandate necessarily. What we're doing is we're going to provide the facilities and encourage utilization. I think, quite honestly, the city of Salt Lake right now, they monitor traffic in that area. And so I know that there has been a big push to provide some level of parking, or somewhere where the trucks can move off of the streets. If you drive out into the designated area of the inland port in Salt Lake County, for example, there are times out there where it is extremely congested and the traffic moves very slowly. And we're trying to alleviate as much of that as we possibly can by providing the facilities. So again, it's kind of up to it'll be a joint effort with the local government as well to encourage the trucks to move to the parking structures. I can tell you that there will be some fees involved in that, because we can't just offer structures for nothing. But the fees are nominal, and it's not intended to be, a massive profit center for the state by charging trucks, to park in those locations. But we're trying to recoup a little bit for the services provided.
And Paula Kramer has a comment that to a previous comment of yours. This means that if you are a construction contractor, you will want to be aware of the state's pre-qualified contract requirements.
That would definitely be important. Yes.
Well, but you're not going to let your contracts through Department of Construction and Facilities Management. You're going to go through what the new term is, the government operations.
Yeah, and I wish I was better versed in the exact process. That's something I'll have to get brought up to speed on. But at this point, unfortunately I can't give you a really good definitive answer, Tom. I apologize.
Another question, Brad. In which direction do you see the development of facilities and logistics spreading out away from Salt Lake City core area?
Well, good question. So if you take a look at the map, and I don't know if we could even go back to maybe one of the maps that we had up earlier. If you take a look at that regional map right there, that map shows you kind of the arteries that flow through the state. And you can see a lot of those are, the interstates are noted, critical, the loads or the major roads that run through some of the rural areas are noted, the railroads are noted, and even some of the airports in the state are noted on that map. But it's been really interesting as we've talked to various counties and even some of the municipalities in those regions. They provided tremendous insight in terms of things that have happened, things that are planned for, and all of that's been very helpful as we've kind of done an overall overlay or map of the state to get a better handle on in terms of what the assets really are. And it doesn't all have to come to Salt Lake County or along the Wasatch Front. What we're realizing is there are a lot of resources that are being generated in the state, whether that's minerals or oil or even agricultural products. And those things don't necessarily have to come to the Wasatch Front. And we can defer those to some of these other locations around the state. And I'm sorry for not being more specific, but due to the fact that we're trying to ensure that contracts are in place and things are made arranged for, all of this will be forthcoming. But you can see by these maps, it becomes pretty obvious where the opportunities lie, I think.
Okay, I don't see any other questions on the chat box. Does anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask Brad directly? Brad, doesn't look like there is.
Great.
As you saw, your presentation generated a great deal of questions and interest. So this was an excellent presentation and introduction to the inland port and what you're trying to do. So just a hearty thank you from your friends here at Peatpac, Brad. Appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, Chuck, and thanks for everyone's participation. I am, I guess, the new guy, but I am passionate about what we're doing. I can assure you that the more I've gotten involved, the more excited I've gotten, quite honestly, because it provides potential for growth to happen in this amazing state that we live in, and it allows for that growth to have some oversight. And we can do it right. And that to me, that's as important as anything. And with that being said, I thank you again. And I look forward to meeting a lot of the folks that were on the call today.
And I'll just say this publicly, and Brad, I apologize if this is inappropriate, but I think Peatpac has just formulated a new partner with the Peatpac program in the Inland Port Authority and
Sure.
Brad. And so as there are, Brad, as there are contracts and opportunities, whether that be directly through like a prime contract that you might put out with the Division of Purchasing, or even subcontract opportunities, let Peatpac know, and we can help. We can help you and your clients with those opportunities. We can help assist them in the ways that they need to respond to you.
Sounds great. We'd love to be in Utah. We love Utah. We want to support Utah. So
and then I think the Inland Port Authority, as I recall, you're at that Utah One Center building, aren't you?
we're actually located downtown on First South and
Yeah,
Main?
you're right there. So you're just a block
Yeah.
away. So we
Yeah.
will certainly be in contact. We're here on South Temple and State Street. So
Terrific.
so again, thanks to Brad Andrews and the Inland Port Authority. Just a reminder to attendees that in October or on October 21st is our annual Peatpac Symposium, and it's going to be in person this year. We feel as we follow the guidelines from the state that we've reached a point where enough people have been vaccinated, and we feel safe to hold this in person. So we will be at the Davis Conference Center on October 21st up there in Layton. Just kind of a sneak preview of what the coming attractions are. We're going to have a surprised guest speaker. I won't say whom, as we're working on that now, but one of our featured speakers is going to be Matt Schoonover. He is a attorney. He's a government contracting attorney out of Kansas, and he is a friend to the PTACs throughout the country. Has spoken many times at our national trainings and conferences, and we are going to bring him out to Utah and Salt Lake on October 21st, and he'll be a featured speaker. We also have 4 breakout sessions in the process and plan. One of those will be, as mentioned earlier, the Division of Facilities, Construction, and Management, and we're working on some others. We'll have booth exhibitors. We already have commitments from several, and with more to come. And then a new feature of the symposium will be sort of a new networking session, sort of a business-to-business opportunity, and that's in the works. So put that on your calendar. Again, October 21st at the Davis Conference Center in Layton. And the registration is not out yet, so you can't register, but we will probably have that in place by I would say probably towards the end of August, but we will put out a second flyer with more information and details. But for sure, put that on your calendar again, October 21st. And with that, we'd like to thank you for tuning in, and Brad again for his presentation. And we wish you all a very happy Wednesday continuing. So have a good one, everyone. Take care.